Rumors swirled around the death of Bethany Lynn Stevens, a young woman from rural Virginia who, authorities said, was mauled to death by her dogs while out on a walk last week. Many suspected that someone else killed her and doubted that the dogs were responsible. Goochland County Sheriff Jim Agnew said the misinformation, particularly on social media, was widespread and has complicated the investigation. So he decided to disclose one gruesome detail that he had been reluctant to divulge out of concern for Stevens' family, in hopes of reassuring the public that there isn't a killer on the loose. Shortly after officers found Stevens' body, guarded by her 2 dogs, they began talking about how to catch the animals. When they turned back around, they saw that the dogs had walked over to the body. I observed, as well as 4 other deputy sheriffs observed, Agnew said, then paused before continuing, the dogs eating the rib cage on the body. A friend of Stevens was later able to capture the dogs, the sheriff said. Agnew held a news conference Monday afternoon, 4 days after Stevens' father found her in a wooded area about a half-mile from a main road in Goochland, Virginia, a community about 30 miles outside Richmond. Authorities said the 22-year-old had been gone for about a day since leaving to walk her dogs, so her father went out to look for her in the area she frequented. There, he found the canines, guarding what he first thought was an animal carcass. Bethany Lynn Stevens had been gone for about a day since she left to walk her dogs. So her father went out to look for her at the area she frequented. There, authorities say, he found her 2 dogs, guarding what he first thought was an animal carcass. Much to his horror, discovered that it was. Bethany Lynn Stevens had been gone for about a day since she left to walk her dogs. So her father went out to look for her at the area she frequented. There, authorities say, he found her 2 dogs, guarding what he first thought was an animal carcass. Much to his horror, discovered that it was. Ms. Stevens was terribly injured, but it was very apparent to us that she had been dead for quite some time, Agnew told reporters, adding later that the damage to her body was so extensive that there was nothing left to compare bite marks to. Agnew said many have inundated his office and social media with calls, emails, attacks, and false narratives about how Stevens died. He told The Washington Post earlier that investigators don't suspect foul play and that evidence recovered from the scene, including defensive wounds on her hands and arms, showed that the dogs were responsible for her death. Investigators also have looked into statements from other witnesses, including the possibility that Stevens was killed by someone or something else and that the dogs were trying to protect her. But investigators don't believe that is what happened. Agnew said at least one of the dogs had a significant amount of blood on its collar and neck. Now, having said that, we are still following up on those. We're still doing some forensic tests.